Hey y'all, welcome back to our third and final video in our Hellboy bust series. Excited to get into this one. Do all those fun things, like, comment, subscribe, and we'll jump right into this. So I think for this guy, I'm going to start off by just jumping right into these horns, and I made a huge mistake early by combining these in to this geo, because I think I want those to be separate for the time being. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on my poly frame so I can see my poly groups, and you'll see that there's a blue here and a red here. I can Control Shift left click tap on the horns, make sure nothing else is visible, and then I can come down here to this fun button that I use all the time called Split Hidden. If I click on that guy, now if I Control Shift left click tap, you'll notice that it doesn't become visible anymore, and then that other group, the other groups have been split down into their own subtool. So now those horns no longer exist in this subtool. So I'm just going to Control left click and drag to close the holes on that and redynamesh. I actually don't want that to do a polish, so I'm going to turn off polish and then redo that. And so now we've got these interesting kind of little contact points, and then these guys are now separate. So we'll just redynamesh these guys, and just for the time being, I think it's going to be easier to work on these guys if they jut into the skull, and we can kind of model around that easily. So, all right, so first things first, we'll switch over to our trusty, go to Lightbox Tools, Brush, and then grab this slash brush, /1, and then we'll start slashing this guy like this on these angles, just on the sides of them, and redynameshing as we go, rotating around. Redynameshing. Turn off solo. See how those things are looking. So now we can easily modify these horns without worrying about modifying the shape of our forehead. We can kind of do those things separately, which is what I was going for. Just playing around with these shapes just a little bit. And now we'll go back to that same slash brush and come in here and go like this. We're going to give it some rings, some kind of like tree ring type things. And then we'll just kind of like, I don't know if that's going to work. Redynamesh, and then just give him some subtle little detailing going on here and smooth it out. Give it the appearance of kind of like some old crusty bone marrow in there. And then one way we want to, if we want to get those little holes that are in like bone marrow, when you see those, you can come in here to your standard brush, or just hit 1 on the keyboard for me, and you can come in here and do turn it to drag dot. So there's these different options here. You can do freehand, which is obviously, it's just going to be a freehand like this, or you could use spray method, where it sprays on these little bumps. And that bump is derived from this brush alpha right here. So if you click on this alpha, you can see all these other alphas you can use. You can use these tiny little points and then scale up your draw size. And then with spray on, you could go like this, but we want it to actually go in, so we'll hold Alt. And now we're getting those really interesting little sort of bumps in there. And I don't want too many of them. I want this to maintain kind of a stylized feel. So maybe I'll undo that and just scale up. And then just quickly drag just a few on there. And maybe crank my intensity, because I really want these to show up in the print. That's key for me. And then you could play around with some of the others. Ones like drag dot is a good one too. And you can just kind of make sure the sub is on, and you can just drag those around. Come in and turn off your lazy mouse, and then just drag these little wherever you want. So now that's looking more like bone, I think. And redynamesh. Gonna lose some of those details though. Maybe bring some of those back. Crank our resolution and redynamesh. And yeah, I think that's looking cool. So I'm entertaining the idea too of coming in here like so, and using the clay buildup brush, just kind of adding this little flap of skin, a fold of skin that kind of connects with those horns a little bit better, and just kind of embeds those. Smoothing that back, and then using my H polish Okay, so I think those horns are looking pretty cool. Let's clean up the side over here. Okay, awesome. We'll do a save. And then let's come back here to this jacket, because the jacket's still looking pretty mushy. First things first, I think I'm going to do a deform, do like a 2 inflate. If you just left click and tap on that, it'll give you this little 0. You can type in a number of any kind and just do that like that, or you can drag the slider left to right. I'm just going to re-dynamesh this. Actually, first thing, I'm going to go with my Damien standard and just kind of sharpen up some of these edges. Add some sharpness to them. Just go along the whole thing. Holding Alt and sharpening those. You could use H polish too. Kind of come along the top edge and then go along that other edge. And then let's sharpen this guy. Remember, you can use your trusty lazy mouse if you feel so inclined, but I'm feeling lazy. I'm too lazy to use the lazy mouse. Redynamesh. That's going to shrink wrap everything together, including our little flaps here. So now this is now what's the word? This is all connected now into our jacket geo. For better or for worse. You could come in and like kind of add these little, using the Damien standard. Get as crazy as you wish. Depends on the kind of practice you like. If you're trying to, practice large form detailing, and you just want to get broad shapes looking nice, I think we're kind of already there. But if you want to get into this kind of detail work, doing, wrinkles and thread work and all this stuff, you can get as crazy as you please in this software. I think I wanted to pull these guys out just a little, kind of have them go like that. A little bit tricky to do. Yeah, I don't know if that's working, but pretty high poly to be making large form adjustments at this point. Try to keep things lower poly when I'm trying to make proportional changes. I think that's So you could continue that kind of detailing all the way around if you like. These little seams. Little tiny inner seam right here. Imagining this is kind of like a canvas type material. Whoops. My standard brushes, all these settings on, I need to change. My goodness. All the settings are changed. I really liked that carved feel that I was kind of getting. I'm losing it just a little bit. Go back over this stuff. Introduce some of that. Again, this is just the H polish that I'm running over this guy with. I have symmetry on in this case. You can run a few weird wrinkles around the back of the neck here. Okay, let's turn off solo and see where things are looking. His shoulders just a little bit broader. I mean, he's a big guy. Hellboy's a big old boy. And then we'll come back in here with our /1 and refine some of our hair work. Oops, turn polish on. I cranked that too, a little too high. Let's turn up our resolution, turn off groups this time. And we went all the way to 7. That's pretty high. Figuring out the right resolution, that little sweet spot can take some noodling with the Dynamesh to know. So I like to go, remember to go both out then in, with my detailing. Just remember it's important to push and pull and Damien Sanders is not cutting it right now. Let's just do a slash, turn down our intensity, scale up. Whoa. Kind of digging that. So I'm going out, then in. It's looking cool. That, I think. Try that approach on this guy. Couldn't get that right. Alright, we got a fair amount of detailing done. Let's continue. Let's just refine this face. The thing I like to do is adjust my focal shift while I'm using these brushes, so that sometimes you can get some interesting things. So like with the focal shift on the H polish, if I crank that all the way up, you'll see that little dot on the inside circle go up, in and out. I crank that guy, and then my intensity, and it'll help with that kind of look that I'm going for. Another thing you can do, if you want to just broadly adjust, like intensify your detail work, you can come down here to deformation and go to like contrast, and you can just drag that slider from left to right and just watch what your details do. And sometimes it works really nicely, and other times it requires some cleanup. But when you're trying to print miniatures or something that's going to be at small scale, and you really want to see those details, that's the way to go. So just crank that contrast, and that'll help you out. So resolution, we'll crank to like 7 something. I'm just going to refine these eyelids just a little bit, using Damien Standard to go along the top. Carve that guy in. And H polish. Solo. Can't tell, I really want some edges to be sharp and others to be, just want it to feel like it was almost carved in wood or something. Just using the H polish. Back to slash, turn on my symmetry. Just need to go behind that nostril and smooth it back. See if I can. Nice, and one thing we never did is combine the ears down into our head geo, so let's go ahead and do that now. Merge that guy down. We're about 20 minutes into this. We're making good time. I'm gonna re-dynamesh, just combine the ears in, and then let's try to make, oops, we lost our resolution on that, so let's go back to geometry and make sure we're cranked to 6 or 7s, and then re-dynamesh. Make sure we keep all of our resolution and our detailing over here, which we maintain it pretty nicely. And now let's introduce some of that detailing, that same detailing over here. So we're just going to try to smooth this, just combine this ear into our work here. I'm really liking the surface, you know, all these little artifacts and things. I think this is going to be a fun print. Continue to run that surfacing along our jacket area. And then I'm going to use my trusty pinch brush because I see an interesting little, I think I can kind of close this gap just a little, make it look more like a seam. Nice. And fixated on these guys. Here. Call them my name. All right, awesome. Let's do a save. And then from here, I'm going to do a save as. So I've secured the state of everything in this version 4, and now I'm going to move over to version 5, but I'm going to add so we'll say scaled, because we're going to scale this to real world scale and get this guy ready for printing. So the way we're going to do that is actually just combine all of our subtools down. So we'll start by just merging everything. So we'll just merge down, merge down, merge down. And you could do merge visible, but I like to do merge down if it's not too many going on. So now we have pretty destructively combined everything down into one single subtool. It's going to get chuggy, but now we just have to really quickly run a Dynamesh. We'll crank it to like 8 something and hope that it doesn't crash our machine. So just run this Dynamesh. And then just make sure you look over your model and make sure that running that Dynamesh didn't lose any of your detailing. Looks like we pretty well maintained everything. You could even come in here and do another contrast, bump the contrast just a little bit, just to get a little crazy. Just keep in mind, sometimes you need to push things beyond what you're seeing in the viewport because they won't show up when they're printed small at a tiny scale, because that can be a gotcha. So you messed up that eyelid there for a second. I'm just going to kind of refine things just a little bit further. But now we have everything all combined into one geo. So let's hit Control W, and that's going to polygroup everything into one single polygroup. And I don't want to print this guy solid because that's going to be a waste of resin. So what we're going to do is run a shell process on this character. And the way that you do that is it's kind of an awkward way. And there might be a better method now, but I guess I'm an old school user. And this is the way I do it. So what I like to do is first I'm going to save again. So remember, this is our new versioned up file. And the way you do that is come over here to like insert mesh primitive and do a cylinder and turn off your symmetry, and just in an inconspicuous area, an area where people aren't going to be looking, hold Alt and then left click and drag a cylinder. And that actually made a subtractive cylinder. So now if I go to the move tool and then drag on this little blue arrow and pull that guy out, it made this cylinder here. But the normals, you notice, are inverted. It's made a subtractive mesh. So I'm going to position this strategically in a way that it goes about a few millimeters into, as I'm guessing totally, into the model, and make sure it definitely goes into the model a good amount. And then I'm going to clear my mask and making sure that everything is on, Dynamesh is on. If that's not on, it won't work. You can come over here to this thickness slider and crank that to about probably around 24 to 30, anywhere between 24 and 30. I'll try 24 for now, and then click on create shell. And what that's going to do is it's going to Boolean subtract that cylinder from our mesh, but it's also going to run an inner shell throughout our character so that we're not wasting all of our money on resin, because resin can be pricey. So I'm going to let that cook for a little bit, and then I'll just pause and then restart. Okay, so just skipping ahead, that took a good solid 25 minutes or so just to shell, but I'll show you what it actually did. So it maintained a nice high poly count. It's still in Dynamesh phase, but it actually added an inner shell here. And it's probably not quite thick enough. I probably should have cranked this to about a 28 or a 30. But depending on what I actually print this guy at, it's going to save me a lot on my resin cost. So I'm not going to bother with reshelling. I'm probably just going to figure out the right scale and just go for it. So it'll probably be a thin shell, but because I still live in Dynamesh and I haven't decimated anything, I'm good to, you don't even know what decimation is if you're learning, but we'll get there. We're still good to make adjustments is what I'm getting at. The geo is still complementary for modeling, and getting this guy looking, you know, just right. So I'm just going to continue to go around this character and refine and clean up some of the areas that I noticed while I was watching it shell forever. Just clean up some of this stuff, mostly using H-polish. Cleaning up these cheeks here, sharpening out just some of my details. These last adjustments. And then I'm going to slash in these guys just a little. Oops. I just really want to make sure all of these details show up when I print this. All my hard work pays off. Let's use our fancy little spray tool here and get some of that. Come on. And one thing I did want to show you too that you could possibly do is I'm going to do a save first things first. I'm actually going to do a save as and secure the state of this file as it is. And this one I'm going to call, I'll just leave it at scale for now, I guess, because I'm going to hit enter prematurely. You can come up here to Lightbox Tools, Brushes, and then you can find this, where's that at? You can find stitches in here. So I was going to test these guys out and see if we could actually add some stitching. Yeah, I don't know if that's going to work. Maybe I have to adjust the spacing step of my stroke. And yeah, this one's not going to work. Yeah, this one's crappy. But they had some other ones in there too. That where was it? Where's my brain? That's it, right here. You could theoretically try something like this, but I mean that's going to look weird on this particular. It's just not going to look right. So for now, I don't think I'm going to worry about those. Just try to keep this a little bit simpler, quicker. Okay, awesome. So now we got everything shelled. I'm going to hit Control W to make sure that everything is one poly group. And the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to first save this, and then do a save as, and then I'll make a version 7. But on this one, instead of scaled, I will say dec for decimated. And this is it's kind of like a note. It just helps me to know and understand where this guy's at. And actually, real quick, I'm going to run an H polish over this so it's not so perfectly round and cylindrical. It's going to make it look maybe like something we don't want it to, but I just, it's got to have some, it can't be perfect. Okay. straighten this out a little bit. Let's fix this little bump. Oh, that's weird looking too right there. What's going on there? You see what I mean about rotating around and making sure that things are looking good at every angle. Do as I say, not as I do, kind of a thing in my case. All right, awesome. This is going to print out really nice. So hit save, and then we'll come over here to decimation. In fact, I'm going to say I'm done sculpting from here. So because when you get into decimation or reducing your geo, you lose kind of the ability to really make these kind of adjustments. So maybe I'll do another version up. I'll just do a save next, and this is going to be my secured file for decimation. And decimation's a cool like bumper sticker or something on a t-shirt. So what you're going to do is just you're going to click two buttons. You're going to do first you're going to drop this to like maybe 15%, 16%, and hit pre-process current, and this is just going to calculate the decimation under the hood. And then after that we have to click decimate current, and it'll drop our polycount for us. So I'm going to skip ahead in the video while it calculates. Okay, so we've run the pre-process, and if you hit Shift F, you'll notice that no changes have been made just yet. We have to come down here to decimate current. So we'll hit decimate current, and usually this is much quicker. Pre-processing usually can take a good chunk of time depending on how high poly things are. So now you can see what it did to the topology. Added a bunch of gross triangles and things that just make us 3D artists disgusted. This got our poly count down to a reasonable level. It's 2.6 million. We could probably decimate again, but this is reasonable for like a slicing software that we could send off to. So I'm going to move on for now because the process is basically the same. And then the last part of this whole thing is we need to import in a real-world scaled cube, which I have in the link in the description below. I'll have a scaled cube, a 6-inch cube that you can just steal from me. You can steal it, you can use it however you need, and you see that our head is tiny. And if I hit Shift F on this guy, each one of these cubes or squares represents an inch. Sorry for all you metric people. This is an inch. So we need to scale our head to fit whatever we want, really, essentially. So what if I want this to be like 3.5 inches, or let's say 4 inches to be easy. We'll scale this guy up using our transform gizmo and kind of turn on our transparency here, and then orthographic view. And so if I hit, so look, this is just over 4 inches, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're just over 4 inches, and I'll go like this, and I'll hide these other guys just so we can see. In fact, maybe I'll go like this and get a little crazy with this. Just delete this and then use my Z modeler brush, which I didn't go over in this tutorial, but we will. I have in other tutorials if you'd like to learn more about it. You're going to extrude those, give that some thickness. Now this is a nice ruler for us. So this is just over 4 inches tall. Maybe it's a little bit big, so maybe I'll just scale it down just a little. Go like 3.5 inches or so. So I'm not being super precise, mostly because I don't want to right now. But this head is ready to go. So we can take this guy out. It's decimated. We can come over here to Make sure that everything is one poly group by hitting Control W, because you can have issues if you had like something like, you know, like this over here that was a different poly group. You want it all to be one color. So Control W, go to export, and then export your OBJ. What I like to do is make like a 2_OBJ folder and stick that guy in there. Hellboy, boy scaled 3 inches. And then add a version to it. I like to version everything. So now I know that that's the model that's ready to go out to my slicing software. So I take that into Chitubox or anywhere that you know, any other software that works with my specific printer. So that's the tutorial, everybody. I think we banged this out in 3 short videos in under 40 minutes a piece, so I'm pretty proud of that. Let me know how my instruction is, or what things that I can emphasize or be a little bit better in. And thanks so much for watching. You guys have been great. Really working on trying to just build a little community of creators and people that want to learn ZBrush, not only ZBrush, but just to make things. And so I might start doing other tutorials as well about, you know, maybe doing Substance Painter or texturing model or look deving, shading, you know, characters for video games or for film. So let me know what you're interested in, and thanks again for watching. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, and we'll see you in the next series.